One thing I see left out a lot in conversations about Minecraft peripherals are mouse pads. So that's why in this video, I'm going to explain the difference between the 3 major groups of mouse pads, give you my favorite recommendations for each, have a special guest tell you the benefits of going with a more premium mouse pad, and overall just answer the question, is the upgrade to a better mouse pad worth it? So right, what are the 3 major groups of mouse pads? There's speed, there's control, and then there's hybrid. Depending which company you buy them from, they each have their own strengths as well as their own notable weaknesses. This sort of variety makes it so you can't really pinpoint a singular mousepad that will work for everybody. They just have their own preferences. So instead of saying one group is better than the other, I will just cover each of them individually and give you my personal recommendation for each. And oh yeah, the only way a mousepad will make it into this video is if I personally owned it. Okay, so the group of mousepads I want to start off with is hybrid, and that's probably the most popular group there is. If you couldn't tell already by the name or just prior experience, hybrid tries to combine speed and control, which when done correctly is its biggest strength, getting the best of both worlds. The biggest downside of this could be that it doesn't specialize in either one, and that it's a really highly saturated mousepad market to the point where some of the better options aren't as clear. Out of all the hybrid pads I've tried, my favorite has got to be the Artisan Hien. This is one of the most popular hybrid pads and just mouse pads in general. You've probably seen a lot of your favorite creators using it. The Hien is one of the faster hybrid pads out there while still having some stopping power. Artisan also does offer different thicknesses of their mouse pads, so if you want more or less speed or more or less control, you can do that. Another thing I appreciate about the Hien is that you do get the Artisan build quality and durability. This helps it be more humidity resistant. Yes, humidity actually does affect your mouse pad. It's less prone to fraying around the edges, and as well the stitching is lower than the mouse pad itself, so your wrists aren't really going to hurt there. Ultimately, there's a lot the Hien does right, and it is going to stand the test of time, but what are its weaknesses? The first one has got to be the competitors. A lot of companies are trying to replicate this mousepad a lot, and when you combine that with the large base price and large shipping costs, it just makes it only a matter of time until an American seller makes a pad just as good for a fraction of the price and makes the Hien obsolete. But for the time being, I haven't seen a company match Artisan's quality, so for me it's still at the top of hybrid pads. But say you aren't willing to wait for restocks or pay the high price, there's one mousepad that I did test out that got close to the Hien quality, the GameSense Rush. In my experience trying both these, I feel like they're actually pretty similar mouse pads, but whenever I really tried to compare them, I feel like the Hien has a little bit more speed to it, and the Rush has a noticeably more buttery smooth feeling whenever you glide on it. But all in all, I would say the speed and the stopping power are in similar ranges. As far as build quality and durability goes, I have to give it to Artisan. They've been around longer, so it only makes sense they have more time to prove themselves in the long run, but by no means is the Rush bad in those senses. It's actually well above average in my opinion. I haven't ran into any issues with humidity, and I also feel like the stitching, although it's not below the mouse pad, is still pretty solid. But yeah, concluding the hybrid pad area, my personal favorite is the Hien, but if you can't spend $60+ or wait for it to restock, there is the GameSense Rush, which is $35 on their website or $40 on Amazon. If you also want to, I would check out reviews on the Razer Strider and Odin Infinity. I don't personally own them, but I hear they're great competitors to the Artisan Hien. Now let's talk about my personal main category, and that is control pads. As you can probably already tell, control pads are meant for higher stopping power, which does come at the cost of speed. The biggest advantage here is that your aim should be slowed down, so you should be more wary of where your crosshair is going to end up, and the higher stopping power for me has eliminated some overflicking. And the biggest disadvantage here would obviously be that you're losing out on speed. But for me, in the games I play in Minecraft, I feel like my aim should be slower. Most of the targets I come across aren't that fast moving, so I feel like a steadier and more slow aim would actually benefit me. But this is my personal preference. It's probably going to vary for a lot of you. When it comes to control pads, my favorite right now is the GameSense Radar. And as far as I can see, I'm really the only one in the Minecraft community who's been openly using it. Because there is higher friction on this mouse pad, it does get slower than the average, which like I just mentioned with the advantages of control pads, really did help my aim a lot in Minecraft. Now paired with the control, it also has a really smooth surface on it too, which just made gliding feel better. It's also smooth to the touch, so if you're gonna rest your forearm on top of it, it'll be comfortable. The stitching is slightly raised, but just like the Rush, it's very low, and it shouldn't get in the way. As far as durability and overall just build quality goes for it, I've owned this thing for over 2 months, haven't really ran into any humidity issues or change of glide, so overall really good. Another thing worth bringing up is I feel like control pads are better for bridging as well. For god bridging, it was the easiest to keep my mouse stationary, which was appreciated because even the smallest of movements can really mess up a bridge. The biggest weakness here is that the mouse pad can sell out pretty fast, but once it's in stock, this is an amazing option for control pads, and they have a lot of promotions going on, so I just don't see why this isn't one of the top options for control pads. If you don't trust mouse pads with patterns on it too, they also have a solid black option. If you don't want to go with the Radar, a solid runner-up in my experience would be the Odin Eclipse. The Eclipse in my experience is actually pretty similar to the Radar. I do feel like it is slightly faster, but overall in the same range. But the Radar does have more promotions currently, so I'd pick the Radar out of these two. If you have even more time and want to really expand your options here, definitely check out some reviews on the Artisan Zero. It's one of the most popular control pads, but I currently don't own one. Now onto the last category, speed pads. pads. Now for the basic fundamentals, you pretty much for the most part just take control pads and flip it. Speed pads are optimized for, well, speed, but it also can really reduce stopping power depending which one you go with. One of the biggest pros here is that gliding ultimately can become effortless. If you can adjust to the point where the speed doesn't add a lot of micro movements to your aim, it can ultimately be deadly. The big disadvantage here is that that's not the easiest thing to do. It can be common to experience overflicks, underflicks, micro movements, some of the unwanted stuff. My personal favorite is the Skypad Glass 2.0. Surprisingly enough, Fruit Berries is also a user of this mousepad. I honestly didn't expect anyone else to know about this in the Minecraft community. One of the things I like most about the Skypad Glass is that it's one of the fastest speed pads out there and also one of the easier to control. But still by no means is it on the same level as a dedicated control pad. It's still possible to have the micro movements. But yeah, when you actually can adjust to this level of speed, this pad can actually be really fun. As far as build quality and durability goes, it's a hard pad made of glass, so this thing is going to last a very, very, very long time. It has no stitching, so you don't have to worry about that hitting your forearm, and if you use the correct PTFE feet, the surface and gliding experience can actually be really smooth. The big downsides about this mousepad is that it is about $100. They are coming out with a 3.0 soon, so I would probably wait for that if you are willing to invest in one. And also, the mousepad becomes nearly unplayable if sweat, hair, or dust gets on top of it. But it is very, very easy to clean up. Just get a microfiber cloth, and boom, you're good. Ultimately, I love how fun the Skypad Glass can be, but in the long run, it's an unrealistic option for me, as I like to minimize my micro movements and have better control of my aim. If you are not the same way and you actually want a lot of speed, the Skypad Glass 2.0 is an amazing option. And I can only assume the 3.0 will only be better. Oh yeah, never put ceramic feet on that. It's not a good experience. And now my friend Armagon will come on and pretty much talk about why it can actually benefit you a lot to buy a premium mousepad. Also, check out his channel in the description below.
There are two main weaknesses that a cheap or custom mousepad has that Artisan or Odin or any other mousepad company doesn't have. And the first thing is going to be the consistency of the mousepad. First of all, when you have a print on a mousepad, it actually changes the texture of the thing. So the glide is going to be less consistent than something that's a fully black pad from, let's say, Razer or once again Odin or Artisan. A second main big weakness of like cheap mousepads or custom cloth pads is that they're stuffed pads and not exactly woven, and so over time the cloth is going to lose its shape and you're gonna see like these weird like sinkholes from your mouse like using the mouse pad over the course of a few weeks or months. So after like 3 or 4 weeks, you might not notice it, but after a few months, your mouse might start getting a bit of drag in some places of the mouse pad that might not have been there when you first got it.
Okay, so I've gone over the 3 different categories of mouse pads and the best ones that I've personally tried for each. And remember, mouse pads are heavily preference-based. Just because I say control is my personal favorite does not mean I'm saying it's factually the best. It's just what works best for me. But do I actually think that a mouse pad is a necessary thing to spend a lot of money on for Minecraft PvP? If you take a look at some of your favorite content creators who are above average at the game, you can start to notice that a lot of them don't have a lot of these mouse pads I just mentioned, but rather some of the cheaper options that won't perform as good as the others. And the reason for this is I feel like aim truly does come down to just your skill and practice of the game you're playing, but it doesn't mean there is absolutely no benefit to getting a good one. For the most part, it will last you longer if you buy it from the right company, and it will likely give you a better aiming experience. So I still do eventually recommend upgrading to a nice mouse pad that has proven longevity, but if you made a list of necessary upgrades for Minecraft PvP, I would put mousepad towards the bottom. Still a nice upgrade, just not the most needed.